Started. Okay. The first thing I want to start with is the Quick Pricer, which you'll find over here on the left-hand menu, which opened in my other screen. All right, so this is the Quick Pricer, and this is when someone calls up and says, "Hey, what kind of pricing or what kind of rate can I get today?" In LendingQB, the nice thing with all the address fields are once you enter a zip code and you click out of that zip code box, you will see the system automatically enters the state, the county, if applicable, and the city for you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just leave it. The system is defaulted at purchase. We'll just go ahead and leave it at purchase. So you can see we have the little red X telling us that that is a required field. We also have the red X at the top here telling you that there are required fields that need to be populated. And I'm just throwing in some numbers here. We'll just go with fixed, conventional, 5-year, 30-year. Let's see, let's take some of these out. As you can see, we had 200 programs previously. So we'll take a few of these out just so the system will work a little quicker. Okay, and I'm just going to cover this real quick because we are going to get more in depth of the Price My Loan or the PML engine. And this is the Price My Loan engine that you're looking at right now. So anyway, we have eligible loan programs. Down here we have display ineligible loan programs. So in the event no programs populated the eligible section, you could come down here to the ineligible section and where you would be able to see, okay, why did this loan not qualify? And maybe, for instance, you have a minimum FICO of 640. And in which case you could come over here and we have an estimated credit score which is left at 0 because the system will still price loans. But you could come over here and put 641 and that would make this an eligible program or possibly make it an eligible program. Okay, that is the Quick Pricer. Okay, so we're going to come down here to your settings and your profile. You want to double check that your information here is correct. Make sure your license number. These fields, if you see these fields and they're already auto-populated, these are just companies that are integrated with LendingQB, such as IDS or DocMagic or Doc companies, DocuTech, and your login information may be auto-populated here. For you, it may be pulling credit in the Services tab, add credential, credit reports. This would be set up by your manager and or system administrator. Okay, so back to your profile down at the bottom. This is where you could add your signature, so you can sign 1003s and things like that. What you want to do then is sign a piece of paper and then crop that as close to your signature as possible and then save that, and then you'd go ahead and upload that into the system. I know mine is blurry. I don't have a scanner available, and so what I did is I just selected a font in Word, and then when I enlarged it by cropping it, it made it look blurry. Okay. Your picture. This is where you would upload your photo if you're using the consumer portal. And so you would upload your picture here, and then when someone goes to the consumer portal and they click on your name, then at that point they would also see your photo if it was uploaded there. Okay, we're going to go back now to your settings and register mobile device. So what this is going to do for you is, if you're out, say at lunch or wherever you may be, and you run into someone and you're talking with someone and they want to know what the pricing is, this is going to allow you to pull pricing on your phone. So this will work on phones, tablets, any kind of Android or Apple device. What I would say to you first off is, before you even go to this step, you want to go out to the App Store, whatever your device may be, and simply type in LendingQB, and you'll be able to install the LendingQB app on your phone. Once you've done that, then you'll come in here. You're going to go to your settings, click register mobile device right here, and then you're going to type in a name for it and click generate mobile ID. As you can see, the system's giving you 10 minutes to activate your mobile device. Your mobile ID is up here at the top, and that's why we recommend that you download the LendingQB app first, because you only have 10 minutes. If you go 10 minutes and 1 second, then this ID will not work, and you'll have to come in here and close this out and click register mobile device and start all over again. If you decide you don't want to use it anymore, change your device, whatever it may be, you could delete this. Okay. Now let me go to my file. Well, one thing I want to start with is up here at the top, it says conversation log. Let me clear this out. Okay, so the conversation log, this is where you would, if you want to send your underwriter or maybe your processor a message, you can use the conversation log here. Under category, down here at the bottom right, you're going to select who you want that to go to. So if it's your processor, you're going to come in here and you're going to type a new message. Okay, click new comment. Okay, now there's your processor and they can reply to you. And so this conversation log is specific to this file. Okay, and as you can see down here, the category are the different people or different roles who you could send you know, a conversation to, a note to. But this section is also permission driven, so depends on how your company has the system set up as to if who they give you permission to send conversations to, or permission for conversations that you can see. You could also, if you wanted to, as a loan officer, you may not care about post-closing, your loan is already closed, or secondary purchase accounting. You may care about these other particular categories, in which case you could go ahead and deselect the post-closing, secondary, and purchase accounting, and you won't see those particular conversations here. You can also set your conversation ascending or descending by selecting newest or oldest first. Okay. I want to head back here to the pipeline view real quick. One thing I want to show you, this tab right here says disclosures. I've moved it around trying to get it to show me to say disclosures, but it just doesn't want to. But it says disclosures, and it says 50 due. And if I click on that, and if I were to count all of these files with a red date, there would be 50. And that red date is telling you that it is either due today or past due. You may or may not have access or permission to see the disclosures tab. I would think as a loan officer you probably should, because this is where you could go quickly and look at your files and see what disclosure is needed, such as initial disclosures here, the date that they're due, and if someone is assigned to it, their name will be here under disclosure desk. It just depends on your company. Some companies have a dedicated disclosure desk. Other companies have the loan officers do it. Some others have the processor do it. So it's all dependent on how your company sets things up. And that's the way it is with LendingQB. It really is up to your management how a lot of things are set up. A lot of things you may or may not see that I'm showing here. And if it's something that you feel that you need, then you should go to your manager and or well, probably your manager, possibly your system administrator, and ask them for permissions to be able to see things or do certain things. I have my pipeline here. I can add, you can see it's a loan officer pipeline. You could add it by clicking the little plus button here, and then go down and look for, we'll go with loan officer pipeline, click choose. Just so you know, there's a number of other reports here. I could name it. And then I could come down here then again and now look for my loan officer pipeline. Also, one thing I wanted to show you there is you have the option of selecting show the only the files you are assigned to or show all loans you have access to. Generally, in this case, I would select only loans you are assigned to. And so then there's your pipeline. Okay. And now it's also set as far as the loan progress or the stage that you are in or the status. So we have loan open, registered, processing, underwriting, approval, etc. Okay. If I come in here later and decide I don't need this tab anymore, I can click the X. Or I could click close tab or X are both the same. Do you wish to close this tab? Click OK. All right. Real quick, disclosures does not have the X. You have to be given permission to see the disclosures tab. Same with task. Now the task page, you may come to the task page. There could be task for loan officers, something specific they need to do. And for you to find that, then you would just come over here to your pipeline page. I'm sorry, the task page. And look for your specific borrower. And then look to see if there are any tasks for you. Okay. Anytime you see the blue type, that means you can sort ascending or descending. Okay. This has a lot of stuff in it because this has been a training file for a while. So don't worry. You're not going to open up a file and see all of this, and there's hundreds of them here. So just know that this is a training file. So I don't want you to worry about all of these tasks in here. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you real quick is we're going to go over here to let me go back to my uh, my file. I want to go to my status and my agents page. Now this is now there may be times where you are going to enter information for someone. Maybe it is an appraiser, maybe it's pest control, whatever the case may be. Two things you would do on this page. One would be to add people. And let's say it happens to be an appraiser. You can go click from contacts, or sorry, pick from contacts. If you already have an appraiser there, you go ahead and click select, and that's going to associate that particular appraiser. Go hit save. And if I go back to the agents list, I should see that appraiser down here. So what you're doing now is associating that appraiser with this particular file. You would do that for AMCs or anything else. If you had pest control and you had a guy that you want to use, someone that you know, and you want them in here, you could come now and click add to contacts. I'm sorry, you want to go pest control, pest inspector, and then enter all of the information here. And it's important to enter as much as you know when you know it. And at the very, very least, you want a contact name, a company name, an email, and a phone number. Any other information that you can provide, like license numbers, NMLS ID numbers, whatever other kind of licenses or IDs that they may have. If you enter as much of that as possible at the time you're creating this, and then you'll click add to contacts. And so what that's going to do now is add that pest inspection company to the contacts, especially if this is someone that you use on a regular basis. You want to have them in there. And that way when you come to your contact list, you could go ahead and add your pest inspector there. And now their contact information is here. And if your processor down the line needs to contact the pest inspection company, you see this is blank. So now the only option they have is to call them, or now they're going to have to go look up the information themselves. Okay, so it's important to keep your contacts up to date and put as much information as possible. If I need to email my appraiser or my homeowner's insurance, I simply click the link. It opens up a page, and now I can go ahead and send them an email. So it makes it nice for everyone, makes their job a little easier, and makes things move quicker through the system. Okay, I'm going to go back to my pipeline page, and I'm going to search for a loan. So I have a drop-down menu here, and you have a number of different items how you could search for a loan. I'm going to use the last name. Partial spelling with an asterisk. The asterisk is like a wild card. So anybody whose last name is T-E-S-T and anything after that, I will see those files. I could just put T-E-S, I could put T-E, or I could just put a T. Doesn't matter. Okay. Click the go button, or advanced search is going to take you to the advanced search page. Okay. There's my T, last name. Now I have 698 files here. So there's a number of different ways that you can narrow this down. I could use loan type, status date, branch, loan status. I could put in a first name, and then I click find using search parameters. Okay, down to 5. I also, if I wanted to, Could come over here to my loan officer, pick the user, again, partial spelling, select the loan officer. Anytime you make any changes to your search criteria, you have to hit find using search parameters. Down to 3 from, was it 500? So this is how you would want to narrow down your search for specific files. And if you're looking for a lead, you would need to select the radio button. Let's see if we have any leads here. Oh, let me unassign. Here we go. I just want to show you, like, as you can see, leads start with the word lead. This one particular file, when you open up a file, I'm going to go ahead and open this real quick. And I come to this loan info page. I can change my number here. The loan reference number cannot be changed. It's grayed out, but I could change this. Probably came in and took it out and save it. So you can change your loan number, but you can never change the loan reference number. And we did that because people were changing the loan number. And then when they were trying to go to third-party vendors like IDS or someone, DocMagic, to draw docs, they couldn't find it because someone had changed the name on the loan. So we created the loan reference number, and this number will always be the number referenced by your third-party vendors. Okay? All right. So search the loan. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this lead here, and I'm going to open this. So I have a lead. Now I want to convert this lead to a loan. I want to come to my status folder, assignment and status. And now I have a button here, convert to loan file. Now there may or may not be a drop down here. Again, depends on how you have it set up. That would tell me to select a template, or allow me the option of selecting a specific template. Maybe a purchase template or FHA or whatever that may be. Okay, I click convert, and now that will convert this lead to a loan, and the lead up here in this section will be removed from the loan number. Okay, let me go ahead and close this. Go back to my pipeline page. Oops. And pipeline. All right, so here I'm on the pipeline page, and someone calls in, and now this is depending again on your workflow. This is where you're going to come in and go ahead and click create a purchase lead, refinance lead, or create purchase or refinance loan, and the option to create a HELOC. One more feature that I want to show you here before we get into the loan application. And so if it seems like I'm jumping around a little bit, I'm going from my pipeline page to my actual loan. And I will close this out for a second. Okay, so I'm on the task page. I want to go to my pipeline. And as you can see up here, there is a refresh button. Occasionally you will see the yellow bar that was on the task. See, when I went out of it, it refreshed. And you just simply need to hit the refresh button, and it will refresh. So anything changes that you might have made will be saved in the system. But what you can, when you hit the refresh bar, it just refreshes your pipeline page. Okay, so I chose the processor credit because there was credit pulled in this file, and I want to be able to show you that. So I'm going to click on processor page and click edit. That does open in another window because we are set up as paperless. And I want to look for a sandbox file. And so I can create sandbox file, simply say OK, give the system a minute, and it will go ahead and create this. It's basically copying this file, but it's called a sandbox file, meaning that it is open in another window. Okay, you can see it says sandbox up here at the top. And so what this is for is this will allow you to go into the loan and make changes and things like that without affecting your file. So maybe you've moved this to processing. When you've moved this to processing, you'll be locked out of the purchase price, the interest rate, the term, anything that might affect the payment, you will be locked out of. In the sandbox file, though, it's going to allow you to also come in and play around with the file. Maybe you're trying to make something work. Maybe your DTI is close and you're looking for a way to get it to work the loan out. You can do it in your sandbox file without affecting the original file. And then what you could do now is move that over to your other screen, which I know you can't see my screen, but I'm going to move it over to the other screen. And so now I'm back here in my file. The original file, you see it doesn't say sandbox at the top. And then any changes that I made in the sandbox that made it work, I can then change them over here. You would have to come in here and change it manually. We don't have a magic button that says change it to what the sandbox file says. Okay. And then up here at the top real quick, this is the at a glance section. It has the loan officer, the loan number, the status of the file, the rate lock status. Your DTIs are here, your LTVs are here, your loan amount, and the loan type. So the loan type is other, and it's there specifically for a reason, because I'm gonna go through this file. We're gonna select a specific loan from the PML engine, and I'm going to show you how that is going to affect certain fields in LendingQB. Okay, so now we're ready. We're going to go ahead with the application now. So I know this looks like a lot of pages. Well, what we did is we took a 1003 and broke it down into sections. Some pages will have more information on them than others. Some pages have very little information or fields that will require data entry, and still others will have no data will be required on that particular page based on the loan purpose. So we're going to go ahead with the purchase here. Our lien position. Again, the loan type, you can select the type of loan that you want. I'm going to leave it at other for now. Purchase price, appraised value, down payment, okay, note rate. So just one thing to let you know that if you don't have a note rate here, the system's not going to calculate your PITI payment down here. Obviously it can't, because if the note rate were 0, we wouldn't have a PI payment. Okay, now these lockboxes are, I can tell you with the lockboxes, you want to use these sparingly. So you definitely want to make sure that if you're using it, you know specifically why you're using it. Now there are times in the system where you will want to use the lockbox, and I will show those to you. But otherwise, if I lock this, so what I've done effectively now is I've locked out the loan amount. Now there may be a time that you want the loan amount to be 285. Maybe you don't want it to go any higher than that. And so you can play around with your purchase price. Well, okay. So at 300,000 purchase price, 5% down, down payment's 15,000, your loan amount's 285. Borrower doesn't want to go 285, but maybe they go 320 on the purchase price. See, the system locked the loan amount at 285, but now it has gone ahead and calculated your down payment is now 11.7%, and you're going to need 35,000. So just to give you an idea how that works, so what we did effectively was lock the loan amount out of the calculations. And so what that's going to do now that I unlocked it, if I come in here and put 320,000, it's going to go ahead and now change my loan amount. Again, this section down here is your PITI. Got to have a note rate and some data in these fields in order to calculate this. These fields here could be set by a template, and they could be set by a conventional loan, FHA loan. It's really up to your company how they wish to do this. I put these numbers in here myself. When I was underwriting, these were numbers that we used on every loan. Yours could be different. So anyway, you could use a factor based on the loan amount, purchase price, appraised value. You select here, or you could put a specific dollar amount here. Again, lock boxes, but don't really recommend you use these because the mortgage insurance is going to be auto-calculated for you. And I told you I would show you that, so we will get into that. We will run into that later. Also, any of these blue tab or blue type that you see is going to be a page. It will take you to that page in the loan application folder. All right. So the subject property description page, this is where you're going to enter your address. Again, enter the zip code, the city, the state, and the county are going to be auto-populated for you. These are two other fields that could be templated. Your HOA goes down here in the project name, the flood zone, and the building is in special flood hazard area. Bullet point will be auto-populated or selected based on the information returned from the flood cert, and that is as long as that flood cert has been ordered within LendingQB. Okay, so processor goes out, orders the flood cert, it comes back, this field is auto-populated, and the correct radio button is selected. Okay, subject property rental income page. If your subject property is a secondary residence, such as a second home or a vacation home, or an investment property, you would just select the appropriate drop down here. If it is also for the investment property, you would go ahead and enter the occupancy rate. The system auto defaults to 0 gross rent and 100% occupancy rate. This page, though, is where you would want to enter your information for a 2 to 4 unit. You select the checkbox here. You're telling the system primary residence can have rental income. And you're going to put in your gross rent and you're going to use your lockbox to then enter the occupancy rate. And if I save this, so you know the Fannie and Freddie guidelines are because it is an owner-occupied rental property, 2 to 4 unit, then your payment is you're already making the PITI payment. So the system is going to calculate that just as Fannie or Freddie would. So when you run your file through one of the AUSs, it's going to recognize this as a multi-unit property with rental income, and you will see that on your monthly income page here where it has subject net cash. So the system is going to go ahead and do that for you. Okay, and that is the subject property rental income page. We have refi construction page, and if you remember, this was a purchase. So there are no fields to fill in here, and even if I wanted to, I can't enter any information because they're grayed out. And if this were, say, a refinance, then these fields would all be highlighted, and then I could go ahead and enter my information on them there. The borrower info page. This is going to be obviously the borrower's information, their social, date of birth, marital status, that type of information. If they happen to be a veteran or a spouse, either one of these radio buttons you select will activate the drop downs, and then you would select the applicable drop down item. Otherwise, if you leave them at no, that's the system default. Okay, we have this little lockbox here. So in case David prefers to be called Dave, use your checkbox. Otherwise, if it's unchecked, the system is going to auto-populate the first name here. Again, this is for someone who may prefer to be called Dave instead of David. And you can go ahead and use the checkbox and then enter their preferred name. Okay, once you enter someone's date of birth here, the system will auto-calculate their age for you. The copy from property address, that's your subject property description page where you entered the address. You simply click this button and it's going to autofill these fields for you. And then also down here, I had used this checkbox to say address after closing. Where do you want them to mail any documents? You want it to go to the subject property address, and as you can see, there are other options. Same thing with your co-borrower. If I want to enter the information here, so I'm not doing a repetitive data, I click copy from borrower, and it goes ahead and enters all this information for me. One thing that's important is to make sure you have an email address here. The reason is, if you're using the consumer portal and you don't have an email address there, you won't be able to use the consumer portals looking for an address here. So, plus anytime you want to send any kind of emails to the borrower, there are links in the system to send them an email. If you don't have an email address here, there are options, times where you will be able to type their email address in a field. But if you have it here, you won't have to do that. You'll just simply click send email. The system's going to open up a page if you have it set up to Outlook or whatever your mail server may be. And it's going to go ahead and open up a page and you can send your borrower an email. Okay, a couple other things on this page. I'm going to go ahead and click add and swap co-borrower. I'm going to click add new borrower. We're just going to call them new borrower. And the reason I did that is I want to be able to show you now when you have two borrowers that are not spouse, so maybe two brothers or two cousins or two sisters, whatever the case may be, and they're buying a house together, they're going to need separate 1003s. So you can reach their or go to their separate 1003s simply by using the drop down menu. And so that's going to be everything in these fields are going to be related to David test case or our new borrower. Okay, I can go to now add and swap co-borrower. I can make my new borrower the primary. I'm not going to, but if I wanted to, I'd just simply select the radio button and click OK. I may come in and say, oh, you know what, my borrower was actually able to qualify without the new borrower. We're going to take them out. We're going to go ahead and delete them. Okay. We also have swap borrower and spouse. So had this file had a spouse associated, you would see the spouse's name here in this field. And then I could click borrower and spouse, and it's just going to swap my primary and my secondary borrowers, or I could delete the spouse. Just know if you do delete the spouse, LendingQB does not have a magic button that says enter the spouse's information back into the file, and you would have to actually go in there and re-enter their information manually. I have two options to get back to my borrower info page. I could click the link here, or I could click the back button. Okay. Not sure what happened there. Looks like we had a slight error. And you see the pest inspector is no longer approved. That was just because we were missing some information in that particular column of agent. You know what? If you don't want to see that, you could either edit it, which will open up the page and give you that information, or just simply click it and delete them. Okay. One other thing on this page, if you ever have to assign the loan to yourself, you would click next to loan officer or whatever it may be, assign. You could put a single letter, find yourself, go ahead and click that, and that's all you need to do. You don't need to click enter or OK or anything, and the system will go ahead and do that for you. Okay. That was the borrower info page. Title and estate page. This is where you're going to select your vesting. In California, we have leasehold. And when you select leasehold, it will go ahead and activate the expiration date, and then you could go in here with your and use your calendar and move up to whatever date the expiration of that particular leasehold would be, or you could type it in. Or generally we have fee simple. This lockbox you could use for a non-borrowing spouse. Oops, hit the wrong button. Okay. Source of your down payment could be gift funds, could be checking, savings, whatever that may be. An explanation here if you need it. We have fields here to enter the seller information. You could enter up to 10 sellers. So I'll just open that to give you an idea. Seller name, address, entity, meaning what type of company is selling it, and any seller vesting if that is information needed. And then this is one of my sections that I really like, because having been an underwriter, I remember there were times when the non-borrowing spouse didn't sign the correct documents. And now that loan can't close this month because we need to go back and get the non-borrowing spouse to sign the documents. If you go ahead and enter the non-borrowing spouse's information in these fields, when this prints, it's going to go ahead and print the signature lines on the documents that are going to require the non-borrowing spouse to sign. It's also going to, if you have it set up, the system set up will generate whatever documents are needed for your non-borrowing spouse. And then you won't have to rely on your closer to make sure that the correct documents were signed. Hopefully they'll see the signature line. You could remove your title only borrower, or if you needed to add more than one, you just click add title only borrower. Okay, your borrower's employment, their main employer is going to be up here at the top. You can type in a job start date and the system will auto-populate the date for you, or the number of years. Or you could put in a number of years and the system's going to calculate the date for you. Okay. If your borrower has a part-time job, you can come down here and click add. And you're going to click current employment. And if you see over here in the date section, the to box has been grayed out and says present. And then you're going to enter their part-time employer's information here and go ahead and save that. But let's say they only have a year on the job up here, and so you need 2 years of employment. Well, that's where you can go ahead and click the add button here. And you're not going to select either of these. And now as you can see, your dates from and to are active, and you could just go ahead and type in the date. And so what that will do now is that will print the employment history on the 1003 for you. Okay. So again, if it is you need to show 2 years of work history, you can go ahead and you have less than 2 years on this job, you can go ahead and add that down here. Or if they have a part-time job, select current employment. And of course, there's also the self-employed section. All right, we have the same thing for the co-borrower, exactly the same. Okay, so on the monthly income, this is a simple calculator. It will calculate based on hourly income and things like that. It won't do averaging or any kind of more complicated calculations. But if your borrower makes $20 an hour for 40 hours a week, the system's going to go ahead and calculate that number for you. Simply click OK, and it's going to enter that information in the field for you. For overtime, the system doesn't know it's overtime. You would need to do that calculation manually. So if your borrower's making $20 an hour times time and a half, that would actually be $30 an hour. And we'll say they average 5 hours a week. System's going to go ahead and calculate that monthly income for you, and you can just go ahead and enter it. Bonus, commission, dividends, interest, same calculator. You can use the calculator. I could just come in here and put 500 or type in a number. Okay. Another thing real quick to show you is your borrower says I make 500 a week. System calculates that for you. Or maybe they make 1,500 twice a month. System's going to calculate that for you. So just simply need to know how much they get paid and whether it's hourly, weekly, every 2 weeks, twice a month, whatever the case may be. Okay. Now down here in this section, some people put SSI, some people put SSA. We're talking Social Security income. if you put SSA and you want to enter an amount, then you run this through the AUS DUDO LP. They're going to come back to you and say unknown income, and they're going to want you to verify what type of income that is. Well, we went out to Fannie and Freddie's websites and we pulled the verbiage directly off of their websites. So if you use our drop down and you go ahead and select Social Security Disability, when you run this through the AUS, it's going to know exactly what that is. So we definitely highly recommend that if you're using other types of income, you want to use our drop down list, and then you won't have issues with them coming back to you and saying, well, we don't know what that is. Okay, other financing info page. A lot of companies are doing 80-10-10s and other types of loans that are not allowing a second lien. So as you can see, the checkbox here is already grayed out. And you would just come down here then and enter your information, the rate, the amount, the balance, the rate, the term. The system's going to calculate that payment for you. We also have the option if this is an interest-only loan, and the system will go ahead and calculate that for you. Okay. And then if you look here where it says original balance, when I select additional financing as a line of credit, it changes that to say credit line. But maybe this is a HELOC. Maybe you're doing a refi. And maybe they don't have a rate and term, but they have a minimum payment. You can go ahead and enter that minimum payment here, and the system's going to go ahead, put that in the monthly payment field, and this field is the system's going to use to calculate your debt to income. Or if this were a second lien, it will also affect your CLTV or your LTVs. Okay, just as it did here. Oh, okay, I had 100,000, that's why. So wondering why my LTVs went so high. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'll go ahead and take those out. Also, if you do have it linked to a second lien, you'll see that loan number here. These buttons will be highlighted, and that will allow you to obviously click go to, will take you to that loan. You can make changes and click update, and it will update the second. And if the borrower comes in and says, you know, I don't need that loan anymore, I was able to dig up the money, you could go ahead and permanently unlink it at that point. Present housing expense. This was a purchase, so just enter the rental income. If it is a refi, we have fields for first mortgage, other financing, insurance, taxes, etc. And we do have an open field here for any other lien that may not be listed up here. In the asset section, you're going to come in here and click add. Okay. You could put a zip code. I don't know if that's a real zip code or not. We'll find out. Okay. And I'm going to say this is a 401k. Well, this list also came from Fannie and Freddie's website, and as you can see, there's no 401k listed. So I would select use our other liquid asset, and then I'm going to type 401k in this field. For the value, maybe your investor says we will allow 70% of the 401k's value, and so maybe our value is 100,000. You'd need to do the math manually, and you'd go ahead and enter the 70%, which is 70,000, and save it. So there's our 401k, and any of these assets that I want to look at or make any changes to or anything, when I click on it and it's highlighted, that information is going to be populated in these fields down here, and this is where I could go in and make any changes and save it. And then the system's going to go ahead and auto calculate these values over here and give me a total. The cash deposit, you could type in over here and enter the amount. It doesn't matter. This is for reference purposes. There also may be some REO value here, in which case this field would be populated from the REO page. So this is a purchase, but if this were, say, a refi, or this were a rental property, or they had rental properties, you could come in here and click Add REO. Okay, I'm just gonna click this to fill the fields in real quick. Now at this point, this is where you would select whether it's sold, pending, rental, or retained. Retained properties is up here in this section. Rental properties is over here in this section. These fields here are the aggregate of all. So if I have 5 rental properties and my gross income is $1,000 on each, this would say $5,000. Okay. Now, if there was a rental property, I go ahead and select rental, and I would put my occupancy rate. I'm going to put whatever my property type is. Maybe enter the market value. Now, this is where you may want to leave this section blank. It's up to you how you want to do this. There's not really necessarily a right way or a wrong way, but I just want to show you. I'm going to put mortgage amount of $100,000. I'll put my rent as $1,000 to keep the numbers easy to remember. You can see now the system has gone ahead and calculated that 450 negative cash flow for me. Now back here on the monthly income, I'll save this. You won't see any income here. The net rent, this is from your REO page. You're not going to see that here if it's a negative. It will print on the 1008 and it will affect your DTI, but you won't see a negative cash flow. However, there is an exception to that, and that would be if you had your borrower has, and you have a borrower and a co-borrower. So I'll add one here real quick just to show you. And I have a co-borrower, and I'm just going to throw the address in there, and I'll do a rental property here, and I'll put my gross rent is $5,000 and my mortgage payment is $1,000. Okay, I'll save that. Okay, now when I come to my monthly income, I'm showing a negative rent here. And the reason I'm showing a negative rent is because I also have positive rent flow for my co-borrower. And now that's giving me a total. Okay, if I come over here now and I delete this one, and now I only have negative cash flow. See, it's no longer in my net rent. So that's the exception. When you will see the negative is when you have a negative and positive, and they're separate between the borrower and co-borrower, and then that's when you'll see it as a total here. Otherwise, you'll see the negative here, and you'll see that on your 1008. Okay, so we have mortgage amount 1,000 and mortgage payment 1,000. And the reason why I was saying you may want to leave these fields blank is if we come over here to our liabilities page, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and match our REO property to the trade line. So right now we're going to use our imagination, and we're going to pretend like we have a rental property and it's financed by Homecoming Financial, and it's at this street address. We're going to select match to REO. Now I have two options. Let me change this. I can click add balance payment info to REO. I'll say okay. It's going to want me to save it. And now, if you remember, our numbers here were 100,000 and 1,000. So what I just did was I just added that information from my credit report on top of the REO section. So it's really up to you how you want to do this. You may want to pull it over from your credit report, which you would do here. If you do not, if you enter the data in the other fields and you come over here and you want to do your property address and you want to assign that particular trade line to that property, I put a number in here so I could highlight the save, because if there's nothing there, then the save button stays grayed out. I had to do something in order to get it to activate. And you could just click save, and then that will not pull this information over. Since I zeroed it out, I'll go ahead and add it back over there now. So just an idea. The reason I really wanted to show you that, and now we're back to those numbers, is because if you're working on it and your DTI seems all weird for some reason, you might want to come back here and double check and make sure that you didn't bring your liabilities over and then double these amounts, which is going to increase your negative cash flow. Okay. All right. Anytime I click on one of these particular trade lines, same as with the other pages, it's going to go ahead and show me those trade lines in these fields down here. Now this is a revolving. System's going to automatically select debt should be included in ratios. So any of these that I select, it should already be auto checked. But we do have option debt will be resubordinated or exclude from underwriting if it happens to be an installment loan with 10 or less payments, or whatever your investors guidelines state. When you select the exclude from underwriting, you see now it removed the checkbox from included in ratios. And now when you run this through the AUS, it's going to exclude this debt from the DTI. Okay. Also down here, repo, bankruptcy, foreclosure. If your borrower says, well, that Capital One card was in my BK, then you just select BK. And again, it's going to exclude that from the debt ratios. Just remember, you can click this and say exclude in BK or included in BK, but you know, Fannie and Freddie, they're going to come back and say, okay, that's fine. Show us proof. Also, this is another area where these checkboxes came directly from Fannie and Freddie. So again, if you're using these, if you're using the drop downs on the pages I showed you, if you're using any of the drop downs, that verbiage came directly from Fannie and Freddie's website, so there's no issue when you run this through either of the AUSs. You won't have problems with things like debt ratio, exclude from underwriting, Social Security income, etc. Okay. Also over here, this particular this mortgage, see it says C REO, so the ratio is used in the REO. Is the ratio used? No. And that's just because this box was unselected. Okay. Again, if I use exclude from underwriting and save it, then it should go back to no. Okay, so you can see all of your debts, if they're going to be shown in the ratio or not. And now to get those debts, those trade lines, we go order credit. Okay. Little R with the circle, see the little arrow here? That's telling me I have to select a credit agency. I'm just going to grab one. I don't care, anyone, whichever one you may use. Credit has been ordered on this particular file, so as you can see, reissue existing report, and now have a file number that will auto-populate for you. So whichever one of these you use, it will use that file number. If this is a brand new file, which is how you will see it, you'll see order new report, and you should have all three credit bureaus selected. That would also be set up as a template, and your company could set it up that way. Okay, let me go back here because I want to show you the little stop sign. Now this says undefined, but if your company has a hard stop here, it may say that you can't order credit until you have your borrower's authorization on file. Okay, so you're going to need to put a date in here. Hopefully you have their borrower's authorization and you're not pulling credit without it. And if I type a T in any of the date fields in LendingQB, it will automatically populate today's date. I'm just doing this to show it. My checkbox needs to be checked. I'm going to click save. Now my checkbox is checked. Now I don't have that particular hard stop that I just told you about. I'm just showing you that what you would want to happen is, I'm just throwing in a credit agency to make the stop sign go away. I've entered the dates here. I click save. I have the checkbox here. Now it's going to allow me to submit my credit request. I can do that, but it's just going to give me an error because I don't have any login information here. And depending on your credit provider, you may or may not have to have a client ID. You may just need a login and a password. The nice thing with LendingQB is once I have selected my credit services, my credit provider, and have used it once, every time I go to a new file, that particular credit provider will be auto-populated for me. I could enter my login and my credentials and click remember my login, and every time I go to submit credit, I won't have to log in every time. Or you may not even see this field right here. May not even be there, this section. And that would be if your system admin had already entered your credit credentials in there. Maybe your company has a company login and you don't have individual logins, but they give you that permission to use that login to pull credit reports. They may already have the login information in LendingQB, in which case you wouldn't see this credit login information at all. this section would just not be there. Okay. All these fields should already be auto-populated for you based on the information from the 1003. Hopefully it's all filled out correctly and with as much information as possible. Otherwise, you'll have the little R inside the circle telling you it's a required field. All right, we pulled our credit. Now you want to view it, click View Credit, and there's your credit report. You probably won't be dealing with an LQI report, but just to let you know, there is a primary report or LQI based on which report it is that you. So if there was an LQI report pulled, then we'd be able to see it here now. Okay, declarations page. I'll pretty much know what that means. We do have a little explanations button here. So any items A through I that you answered yes to, now we have a little explanations field here, and you type in, just keep it short and sweet, maybe make it so that hopefully everyone will understand what it means, because you do have a 255 character limit in these fields. Government monitoring data. This is the new HMDA reporting. If they do not wish to furnish it, you would need to use the checkbox and then check they do not wish to furnish. Okay. In the new HMDA, if it's face-to-face, these fields will become active, and then you would need to click the applicable radio button. Otherwise, anything other than face-to-face, it will be grayed out. But with the new HMDA rules, they get to choose Hispanic and not Hispanic. They also get to choose specific country of origin, or you could type it in there. Same with the race. There is the American Indian, Native Alaska, and we have a field here for the tribe. We have Asian and Hawaiian, Native Hawaiian, and again we have fields for specific countries of origin. And they also get to select male and female if they wish. Okay, and this is all for the new HMDA reporting that became effective the first of the year. The fallback for old exports is for, now this is only for files, so for instance, maybe you created this file before the first, and so this would print the old 1003, and then it would be up to you to select whichever is applicable down here. Otherwise, you won't need to deal with the fallback for old exports. If you create this file today, whatever you enter here in these sections is what will be reported. Loan officer licensing info page should be grayed out. Double check your information, make sure it's all right. If you do need to change anything manually, you can by selecting Set Manually. Continuation data page is a section in the 1003 which is going to allow you to enter any other data that you want printed on the final 1003, but just know whatever you type here is going to print on that final 1003. The loan terms page, here's your amortization schedule. There's mortgage insurance information here, but I wouldn't necessarily go to this page. The one thing I want to show you here is if extra payments. And if you look up here, we have a total of 360. And the borrower says, what if I pay an extra $100 a month? You just need to put a value here and then click outside of this box, and when you do, you'll see the total up here change. It's a nice feature, and when you go to leave this page, it's going to ask you if you want to save it, but if you say yes, you're going to wind up submitting a file to underwriting with 314 payments. So just make sure you clear these fields out, or at least don't save it. Okay, up for MIP page, if it's conventional, you have the option of selecting the MI policy, the insurance type, the coverage, and then which MI company you want to use. These fields are for the commitment dates, and generally loan officers don't tend to order MI. But I just want to make you aware of those fields. This is mortgage insurance, so it's going to be collected every month, as you can see. So you would select annually. If it's not, you could select monthly. Annually in closing month means it would be more for, say, hazard insurance, so that every May they're going to they may collect the mortgage insurance, but this is the payment schedule. This is really more for your escrow company. Okay, just to let you know why that's there. Let me go back to monthly, so it'll change it. Okay. All right. Details of transaction page, closing cost, loan amount, purchase price, total cost. You have your fees over here. Okay, this was a purchase, so this had been this was a did this last time as a refi, or I used this file as a refi, so obviously that wouldn't be there. Now there would be a link here that says link to TRID. I've already clicked on that, and the reason is this is a TRID loan, so why wouldn't I link it to TRID? So what I wanted to do now, what I've done now is now all calculations are going to be based on TRID guidelines. Now this adjustments and other credits, once I click the link that says link to TRID, it's going to change to say adjustments and other credits, and down here in my disclosures TRID folder, there's my adjustments and other credits page. Okay, so let's say the seller is going to give, it was supposed to be 5,000, not 500, and I obviously don't have an MI refund, so I need to go fix that. I'm going to come over here to my adjustments and other credits page, and now here my seller gift should have been 5,000. Okay, and I'm going to want that to include that in my 1003. Let me go to a regular size here, so you can see. I wanted to go back to 100% so you could see the full page, and you want to have that included in your 1003. Okay, I could click that and just take the MI refund out, or I could go ahead and just delete the whole thing, period, and save it. Let me go back to 125% to make it easier to see. And now when I go back to my details of transaction page, there's my seller gift, 5,000. I no longer have the MI refund. As you can see, I can't enter anything in these fields. They've been grayed out when I linked to TRID. So if I had not linked to TRID, I would be able to come in here now and enter information in these particular fields. All right. We're going to go ahead now and go run Price My Loan. So the PML engine, Price My Loan engine, it has everything in it. Everything's already set up for you. So we've run the credit, our credit report. As you notice, we don't have any red X's here, so we should be good to go, but we have 372 programs. Well, our borrower wants a FHA loan. and he wants it fixed for 30 years. So I'm going to go ahead and click price. So the nice thing about the PML is it already has all your investor guidelines built into the pricing engine. So meaning any Fannie or Freddie guidelines are in the pricing engine. Any particular investor guidelines are already in the pricing engine. Any overlays your company may have, or any other lender overlays or task that you may want in here will already be built into the Price My Loan. Also from here, you could go ahead and run your scenario through DO, DU, LPA, or submit to FHA Total Scorecard. You may see all 4 of these. You may see none of these. You may see 1 or 2. It's up to your company how they want this set up. Obviously, if your company doesn't run any files through LPA, you wouldn't need this button. All right. I have a little plus sign here, and what that's telling me is that I have more than one investor at 4%. If I click that, it shows me I have 4 different investors at 4%. Okay, and you can see that they have different points here. So you may choose your investor based on if you need money for closing cost. You may have one investor that you know there's something particular about this file that you know that this investor will allow it, but that one won't. So that would be reasons for selecting different investors. So what I'm going to do then, I'm going to go ahead and click pin. So I'm going to pin the 4%, and I'm going to pin the 3.875. Okay. And I went ahead and hit 3.75. So now I have compare 3 pinned results up here because I selected 3. I can remove it by just clicking unpin. And this will take a moment. But soon we'll be able to compare all 3 different loan programs, payments, and things like that side by side. And this is one of the other things that I was telling you why it's important that you want to have your email on the borrower info page. From here, you can send a copy of this report to your borrower. Click send report to borrower. Oh, look, there's my address. You can, this is one instance where it will have a box, and you could type your borrower's email in there, or maybe they want you to send a copy to someone. You could add that there. Click a message. Now include breakdown of estimated closing costs. If I say yes, it's going to show both pages. If I don't show yes, it will only send the first page. And what I mean by that is page 1 of 2. Page 1 of 2 has all the breakdown, all the loan information, has your interest rates, your loan amount, your down payment, your PITI payments. Those are broken down. Okay, everything here about the loan, page 1. See where it says page break? And page 2 of 2. Okay, that's where you decide whether yes sends both pages, unchecked only sends the first page. And the second page is the total breakdown of all the fees, everything associated with this particular loan file. Now if you see here where I clicked on the actual estimated closing cost, everything here says loan file setting. So origination fee, lender credit, appraisal fee, all that was already part of the, if this says, the template fee, you would see that there. It doesn't say template fee, it says Okay, I lost it. I can't think of what it was called. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can find something here that says anything. Probably not. They're all going to say loan file settings. Okay. Anyway, you set up a fee template, and then that will also show on there, and it will say fee, and that will mean that that particular fee was created by your company. So underwriting fee, processing fee, whatever fees your company may build into every FHA loan or conventional loan or whatever the case may be. Okay, well, didn't mean to close that. So from this point, I can go ahead now and register this loan either on this page or on my PML. As you can see here, it says register or request lock. You'll want to register it, and the reason why you're going to register it, what that's going to do now is that's going to associate this loan so let's remember our interest rate is, we'll go with 3.75. Click register. Looks like it might have, oh, there it goes. Okay. You may or may not have to agree. Again, depends on how your company has it set up, but you will have a confirm button. So anyway, by registering the loan, what you're doing is now this loan is already, the system has already told you, PML has already told you that this loan qualifies based on all the information in the system. So now this loan is registered to this loan program at 3.75%. And there are cases where the underwriter and or processor may want to go back, and there's an option here to check eligibility. And what that's going to do is it's going to go ahead and run the same loan scenario that you, loan program, and the interest rate that you selected when you registered this particular file. And now that's going to allow someone else, say a processor or underwriter, has to change something. They can check eligibility and make sure that it's still eligible for this loan program at this interest rate. Okay, so remember I told you that all of the guidelines, overlays, task, everything's already built into the system. And so the system's going to go ahead and generate all those for you. And as you can see, some of them are done. And that's the reason it's saying that is because these have already been actually signed off, because I use this file for also for processing. And so in processing, those were signed off. Otherwise, you would not see these checked off on a brand new file. Okay, I wanted to use this file because it had a credit report pulled, and I wanted to be able to show you the credit report and a few other things like that, and how it already populates into the liabilities. Okay. Now, so we selected the 30-year FHA. We're going to go back to, okay, and we're seeing this because we changed the interest rate 3.75. Again, this is a test file. All right, there's our 3.75%. Oh, loan type changed to FHA, 30-year fixed FHA Freedom Mortgage. Okay. Also, back here on our MIP page, system went ahead and entered the data from the particular investor as to which is, as you can see here, FHA. So our upfront is 1.75 and our annual is 0.8%. the system goes ahead and makes all those calculations for you. And if you come over here to this loan info page, the mortgage insurance has already been auto-populated. All right, so now we're ready to move this file. We're done. We've priced it. We're ready to move it to underwriting. We have what we need. We're going to underwriting. We're going to go status, folder, general page. We're going to come over here to processing and just put a T for today's date. And now that file has been moved into processing. Go ahead and click save. All right, now you've been locked out of the fields I was telling you about. Basically anything that's going to change the payment, the debt ratio, anything like that, LTV, you're going to be locked out of that, so you can't go in and make changes. But remember, you can do a sandbox file. And also now this is for, you could come in here now and see where your file is through the system. You can find out, has it been submitted to underwriting? In underwriting, was it approved? You're going to receive an email that tells you it was approved. But you can come in here and see where it is in the system. Maybe it's final underwriting. Maybe docs have been ordered. Okay, you should receive an email telling you docs were ordered. You can turn that email on or off. So either way, if you're not getting the emails, you can come in here and look and see where your file is. Down here at the bottom, you can see, was the prelim ordered? When was it received? Appraisal ordered, flood cert, all that. So the flood cert had already been ordered through in this file, and the system auto populates these dates. Otherwise, there are dates that your processor will need to enter. But generally, if they're ordering, if your system is set up to order title, appraisal, flood, anything like that, Kverse can be run in the system. If you're using our integration or integrated partners, when something like, say, the appraisal is ordered, the date's going to auto-populate. When the appraisal is returned to the system, the date's going to auto-populate. So you can come here and see where your file is or what's happening with your file and the status just by coming to the general page. And that is as long as the processor is entering the dates. Just in case you're using services outside of LendingQB, they would have to be entered manually. Now here real quick, this is the RESPA 6 data points. And so what we did is we took the 6 data points that create a what is known as a RESPA file or an active file. So once that data is entered in our loan application over here, then these fields are going to populate. Now the reason why these don't show, or for instance this has a date of 1/3, is because this file was actually created before we did this enhancement. So I'm just going to go ahead and pretend like I went in and entered all this information. I'll go ahead and put today's date. And as you can see, the most recent date the information was entered is my RESPA 6 date. Now, once you have entered all 6 points of RESPA data, the clock starts ticking on your LE. Okay? I can do this. And look, I changed it to the 4th. Well, that's nice. That's all fine and dandy, except the system already saw on 1/3 that the RESPA data was there. So you can come here and change these dates, which will change this date, and it won't matter. It's the date, the clock started ticking on 1/3, and you would see that back on the disclosures tab that I showed you in the pipeline view. Okay, so just wanted to let you know that. You can change this to say whatever date you want, but once all 6 of these RESPA data, as you probably know, the name, the social, income, property, address, property value, and loan amount. Then you now have what RESPA considers an active file, and the clock starts ticking. So you have 3 days to get out your LE. Okay? Now, there is one thing that you could do, because someone did ask a question once. Well, what if I take an application at 9 o'clock at night? Well, if you fill in all 6 data points, then the clock's going to start ticking at 9 o'clock at night. The only way to prevent that clock from start ticking is to leave one of these blank. In which case, when you're ready, then you could simply come in here now, go to your loan application to whatever page it may be. Let's make this a little bit easier. We'll make it the income page. Okay. And so then you just simply come in here to your borrower, monthly income, and then you'd put their income in here, whatever that may be. And then that's when the system will pick it up. I don't remember if I left the box checked. I did. Okay. And so that's how I wanted to show you that in case you see it. Okay. Well, that is going to cover the loan officer training.